We're certainly much more high profile as an organization than we have tended to be in the past. Previously, we had a bit of a head down and power through it way of doing business. Public will determines government direction, so if the public understands us and supports us, then government will follow. As such, we have increased our visibility through print media as well as television and radio appearances. Our association is being proactive in taking steps to communicate who and what the trucking industry is and means to Manitobans. Our staff have been working hard with contractors to develop this messaging to help strengthen the public understanding of our industry. Carbon tax has been such a roller coaster. Honestly, I think even more than we imagined it would be. At the start of the year, we were really encouraged by how our Greener Trucking Efficiency Initiative was being received. We started getting nervous when the provincial government released the 2018 budget. Once the provincial government released the budget, the MTA formed a carbon tax committee at the request of the MTA Board of Directors. This smaller group allowed us to make decisions quickly on behalf of the board, as opposed to waiting for board meetings to form policy. The carbon tax was estimated to cost our industry over $50 million per year, and all the money raised by this tax was to go to general revenues. That certainly wasn't something that was mentioned in any of the meetings we held with the government prior to the budget release. Furthermore, once the budget was released, while we met regularly with government staff and politicians alike, we couldn't get anyone to simply commit a yes or no about greener funding. It was a very frustrating process. When your industry is facing a tax bill of over $1 million per week, continuing to wait on specifics was very challenging. When the larger matters were being given exemptions, the trucking industry wasn't. That became the point when the MTA started to take steps toward advocating counter to our provincial government. Always a tactic of last resort. Efforts on that front were very much underway when we learned that the provincial government was not going to implement a carbon tax. We have heard informally that the government still seeks to partner on our greener program. While that is good news, the greater concern for members is the federal carbon backstop. The carbon backstop has become a hot button issue that we have been hearing a lot from our members quite regularly. The MTA and CTA staff are actively working to pursue the answers to many questions which have been left unanswered by CRA. The MTA has open dialogue with our political leaders and government staff. While that is appreciated, our association is struggling with the lack of decisions being made on a number of fronts. The MTA is not alone in this view, as a number of our advocacy partners are experiencing the same struggles. We appreciate the province set itself a very large mandate. However, there are a number of elements impacting trucking that are going unaddressed. Lack of meaningful action regarding provincial fuel efficiency policy and red tape reduction. The value of membership can be recognized in many ways. Advocacy wins are obviously of value, and we've seen a number of them in the last year. We've successfully lobbied to prevent the closure of the Pine Grove rest area, the only rest area between Winnipeg and the Manitoba-Ontario border. The MTA has been actively engaged in creating some form of mandatory pre-licensing training that will become a reality in Manitoba. Over 200 truck drivers were trained to industry standards using public funds last year. This represents a $2 million value for trucking that has come about because of the work done by the MTA. 11 of 19 RPM certified companies received their rebate in 2018 totaling $371,000. We're forecasting this rebate to be $661,000 for 2019. For 2019, the total program savings are projected to be $1.85 million. Finally, MPI changed its licensing practices this year. More importantly, MTA worked with MPI to eliminate the physical license plate change requirement. This saved industry thousands of dollars. Your continued support of the MTA allows for these items to be watched for and managed so that our industry members can focus their attention on their business. We saw a few wins with the city this year, which is always encouraging, especially the Chevrier bike lane project. We also saw the potential opening of Portage and Main become an issue this year, which is strange since it's kind of a non-issue. Portage and Main isn't one of the city's busiest intersections. In the opinion of the MTA board, the costs associated with such a move are prohibitive. Furthermore, the city already has a master transportation plan. Let's finish those projects that were promised to Winnipeggers decades ago before we move on to other costly endeavors. The MTA has worked hard to develop and maintain relationships with city councillors. After the most recent Winnipeg election, the MTA connected with a number of new councillors on items ranging from road safety to truck routes. We saw an issue recently with drivers coming in from other provinces to complete their Class 1 driver tests here in Manitoba. That was one area of concern which MTA has been working on with MPI. We also addressed concerns with the private vocational institutes, specifically the driver training schools and their different standards. Some of the schools were also registered as educational programs, whereas others were not. The province improved monitoring of those that are not also registered as educational institutions to ensure the graduates of those programs are also meeting an acceptable safety standard. We were all affected by the horrible accident in Humboldt. It is disappointing that Manitoba failed to take a leadership role in the development and implementation of pre-licensing training. The province and MPI have both received our 10-point action plan on safety, and the MTA has a significant number of road safety requests under consideration by our government partners. While government progress is frustratingly slow, members need to know that the MTA is actively pushing for improvements. Support for this program has been phenomenal. At the start of the year, we really tried to encourage members to make use of this program so the government could see that there is a real demand for quality driver training. The industry really ran with this program. To date, 262 drivers have received funding, which is worth over $1 million in training. There are 122 companies making use of this program. In addition to our driver training program, we also successfully secured $300,000 for our industry. The driver retention program has been recently extended. We are looking at over $250,000 being paid out in driver retention bonuses this year. Our industry safety program has been really well received by our industry members. 6 companies received their RPM certification this year, making our total number of certified companies 20 since the program began. We currently have 79 companies involved in the program. All this means we have seen $500,000 in reduced premiums and over $300,000 in premium rebates for the companies certified through RPM. Since we began the program in 2015, the trucking industry WCB average rate has dropped by 22%. Those numbers are a solid reflection of the popularity of this program, but also how much people believe in implementing the program in their workplaces. The CTA has had a few major projects on the go that are going to impact the industry nationwide. They were able to get the AMPS turnaround option extended to the end of this year, which really saved a lot of headaches and costs for the trucking companies. That was a win-win for us. I've spent a lot of time this year working on ELDs and what that looks like for Canada. Like driver training, this is something industry is certainly open to and invites, but it has to be done the right way. We want to ensure that our ELD program is acceptable on both sides of the border. Member engagement continues to be strong. All of our events continue to be well attended, from the golf tournament to the gala dinners to the truck driving championships. Our scholarship program, which is supported by some of those events, gave out over $10,000 this year. We welcomed over 30 new Associated Trades Division members this year and a dozen new carrier members. We had a number of members attend the MLA reception this year. Engagement comes in many forms, and our members give what they can when we ask. Several of our members were recognized this year as top fleets, which is something for them to be proud of, but for us as an association to be proud of as well. We anticipate that our advocacy work will continue to focus on attempting to secure funding around driver training and industry education. 2019 will mark the 10th anniversary of the trucking industry seeking inclusion as part of a provincial sector council program. Despite the MTA's efforts over the last decade, all provincial economic and labor market data unequivocally show that trucking should be supported. It appears as though the province will once again reject our industry's call to be shown the same support as other major industries. While this is a setback, it is one that members can trust the MTA will aggressively manage on their behalf. Setbacks aside, there is certainly much more positive news than negative. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars available for members for retention bonuses. We believe that the Greener program and funding for driver training will both be realized before the end of this year. We know that our membership will continue to grow. We will continue working and advocating for a safe and healthy business environment. That is what we have done in the past, it's what we do today, and it's what we will continue to do in the future.